fought against by people like yourself, me and others. But remember, we're fighting against the DNA of America. Can we overcome that DNA? Yes. You can nurture beyond the nature. You can. But it takes fight, it takes coalition, it takes movement, and it takes moments like this where you have a guy who's polarized but still moving. You got to fight that. You got to continue to stay on the battlefield and fight it. I want to talk about the reality of policing in America before you go. All right. People like Trump, even McConnell, who would consider himself to be a mainstream Republican, they're not talking about things that adversely impact black folk. There was a time in politics, I still remember, there was a time in politics, both sides actually talked about the same problems. I've been there, all right? They talked about the same problems, radically different methodologies on how to solve them, but they were talking about the same issues, right? They're not talking about the same problems anymore. And that's why I find it really hard to understand how someone, especially a person of color, can be a Republican today. And I interviewed an individual, a councilman, current councilman, used to be a Republican, and he told the truth. That brother came on the show and said, listen, the reason why I had to get out of the Republican Party is because I was told clearly I cannot support a black agenda anymore. That part, right? So he got out of there because he was one of the black Republicans who was pushing a black agenda to progress black economy, black education, etc. He was told by the powers that be, you can't do that anymore. Why do you think that's the narrative today when 20 years ago, that would have never been a conversation that a Republican would have had with, let's say, a Colin Powell, right? But today, that's what Republicans are telling their black leaders inside of the conservative movement. Why do you think that's happening today?
But can I be honest, and this is gonna be a very unpopular answer. We have a lot of black people that have sold their soul for $1. And we have a lot of black people that would be like a Sambo in Uncle Tom's Cabin, if you will, that will sell out their own black people and go against the black agenda. Because see, all they need is a black face. And see, if we can use the black face to say the racist things that they can't particularly say, because they know if they openly say it, then they will get canceled. So the problem is that we have a lot of black faces that's not pushing a black agenda. We just want to use it as a way of lambasting or bringing down black people. And we're saying what racist people want to say and what they want to hear. That's the real problem. It
becomes this bias echo chamber where they just say the same lie over and over again.
Absolutely.
And yeah, they have no challenge. They are indoctrinated to believe what they believe. Always a pleasure hearing you. I appreciate your passion, your continued advocacy. We're definitely going to have you back on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your work.
Thank you. You can follow me on Instagram at tiffany.m.lloyd. You can follow me on Facebook at Dr. Tiffany M. Lloyd and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Jesus and Justice with Dr. Tiff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tiff. Always a pleasure. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.
All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.
Hello, happy Wednesday. It has been a wild one. Unfortunately, you get to spend an hour with me for Boss. That's right. And I am filling in for the great Nina Turner. And please, while you spend this hour with us, do not forget to subscribe, also share on the stream, and send some love in the comments because we love to hear from you. We also love to hear from the great Francesca Fiorentini. Hello, Francesca.
Adrienne, you didn't even introduce yourself. Adrienne Lawrence, goodness. Everybody. So good to be on with you on Nina's show, of course. But I feel like it's in good hands.
Thank you so much appreciated. Of course, remembering my name would be important, but then again, I'm not George Santos and I don't have multiple names to remember. But yes, that's right. The comeuppance, they have come for George Santos, AKA Anthony DeVolder, AKA George DeVolder. Yeah, and the GOP is beside itself.
This legal process is going to play itself out. Unfortunately, this is not the first time a member of Congress from either party has been indicted. There are a set of rules, and as the majority leader stated, he voluntarily had stepped down from his committees. We are committed to making sure that we root out any fraud when it comes to unemployment pandemic assistance, and we're working to have support from our conference, and it's good policy, and we urge the Democrats to vote in support of it.
Yes, the Democrats should vote, and all the jurors on Santos's case should definitely vote because it's gonna be a real special one. And that person was House GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, and her remarks are coming in the wake of the unveiling of the 13-count indictment against the New York Congressman George Santos. After he surrendered to authorities, the 34-year-old left a Long Island courthouse in police custody this afternoon on a $500,000 bond. And Santos, he pleaded not guilty to 13 charges broken down here per the New York Times. That's right, 7 counts wire fraud, 3 counts money laundering, 2 counts making false statements to House representatives, and 1 count of public funds theft. Now, these charges are linked to 3 different schemes involving fraud, the political contribution solicitation scheme, also unemployment insurance fraud, and allegations that he misled the House about his finances. Among the allegations were some pretty interesting things about the congressman. Yeah, prosecutors say Santos induced supporters to donate to a company under the false pretense that the money would be used to support his campaign. Instead, they say he used the money for personal expenses, including designer clothes and his credit card and car payments. Now, Santos's lies range really far and wide, as I think we all know, as we've watched him over the last several months, just really lies way in office. Anyway, New York Magazine tried to keep a running list of all of his falsifications. This is what they have. He lied about his education, work background, that he founded an animal charity, swindled disabled veterans. Also, he said his mom died in 9/11 when I think she wasn't even in the country at that point. Also, he claimed his grandmother was a Holocaust victim. He said he was Jewish. It's just, really, the list goes on for this man, and I was wondering how long it would take the feds to actually, maybe slap some handcuffs on him because there definitely had to be criminality there. And I guess it took, 5 months? Yeah. Francesca, how do you feel about these charges?
Oh, it's not over. He's gonna fight, and we will see how this plays out, if for nothing else than sheer entertainment value. This is amazing to me, and I know we're gonna get into his defense, but yeah, it finally happened. I have a little, here's my theory, Adrienne. I wanna float this theory. There's also Trump news, right? That happened yesterday. Trump was found guilty of sexual abuse, $5 million he has to pay, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Every time there's Trump news, there's also Santos news. Riddle me that. I think Santos is an op for both parties, just to distract away, for sure for the Republicans, be like, don't pay attention to the guy we're actually probably gonna run again for president, who is also a criminal. But no, let's focus on this other criminal. Hey, so that, I just wanna get out the gate. I think this is amazing though, because it's like, it's kind of like what happens when, like the kind of loser kid in high school, like basically lies a bunch to sit with the popular kids, And he's like, so well, I'm rich too, and I have like hedge funds and whatever, and my mom died on I'm a Jew, and does anything they want, and the rich kids are like, oh, you can sit with us, Republicans in this case, you could totally, you could sit here. Like they're all POSs, they all are like swindling a bunch of people, but they do it like above board, you know what I mean? George Santos just like lied himself into it, and he's like, what gives, and now they're finding out. So they're like, booting him out of the castle, so to speak.
Oh my God, but are they booting him out of the castle? That is definitely the question, which we need to address. Because as you've mentioned, the Republicans, they lie on the regular, they just do it above board. But they've known that Santos is kind of the embellisher to the point of lying for some time. He's been an embarrassment to the party, and he definitely embarrassed them today. Why? Because it was the unsealing of the indictment happened to coincide with the GOP's unemployment fraud press conference. Here's the House Majority Leader Steve Scalise being confronted by reporters in light of the unemployment fraud that Santos is alleged to have committed.
So first of all, in regard to George Santos, he was already removed from all of his committees. There is a legal process. The charges just came out. We just saw some of them this morning. And so in America, there's a presumption of innocence, but they're serious charges. He's going to have to go through the legal process. But we're going to continue to work to root out fraud. And there's lots of it. And we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud in many.
Yeah, it seems like there was a lot of fraud going on there with George Santos, who, interestingly enough, co-sponsored this bill that attacked unemployment fraud. Yeah, it's kind of like they're just really showing us who they are. I don't know. But there have been many calls for Santos to resign, as you know, since day one. And one of the most vocal advocates on the left has been fellow New York Congressperson Richie Torres, who had this to say on MSNBC upon learning about the Santos indictment.
Look, I would never bet on the integrity of the Republican Party, which has a high tolerance for scandal and corruption and criminality. And George Santos, to me, is not an accident. He's an outgrowth of a broken Republican Party whose standard bearer is Donald Trump, who on the same day was found liable for sexual assault. So the modern Republican Party is an endless stream of scandal, and I have no confidence in the ability of the Republican Party to hold George Santos accountable at all.
Oof, that is spot on. There's really no integrity there with the GOP. And as we know with these charges, it just keeps getting worse by the day. But unfortunately, Torres may be right here, as the charges are unlikely to affect Santos's position in Congress. Why? Well, because there are no rules in place that bar Santos from staying in office. He could be charged, he could be convicted, he could be imprisoned, but he can still continue to serve in Congress. That is, unless Santos resigns or he is expelled. And it seems kind of the former appears to be unlikely. And as far as the latter goes in terms of expulsion, I don't know that that's gonna happen, because as we have the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, he seems to be making it clear that he wants to let the process play out.
I haven't seen the indictment, but as you know, with George Santos, I did not put him on any committees. For those like Senator Menendez, who was indicted and we went to trial, he was still able to vote, and others. I believe he's the chairman of a committee today. In America, we'll just follow the same pattern we always have, right? If a person is indicted, they're not on committees, they have the right to vote, but they have to go to trial. If, just like we had a member of Fortenberry, he had the same ability. I removed him from committees, but he was found guilty, and I told him he needed to resign. That is my policies and principles on this, and I'd follow the same path.
So, Francesca, what we have is a member of Congress who's been credibly accused of fraud, has engaged in multiple instances of lying on the public stage and arena, and who most people don't trust with anything. And yet he should still continue to stay a member of Congress until the system plays out. Is that weird to you?
Yeah, let's that's the way Republicans do. Yeah, it didn't happen until due process, maybe, if I believe in due process. But I don't really. Look, Kevin McCarthy does not care that George Santos is a complete liar and a fraud. Kevin McCarthy wants a warm body to vote the way every other Republican will vote. And honestly, that's the proof that the Republican Party is just empty suits whose job it is to funnel money upwards. Is the George Santos campaign and victory and tenure, right? Which is, it doesn't matter who you say you are or who you swindled. As long as you're that warm body who's gonna help keep the rich even richer, you pass the test, man. Like, and he's got a sexual assault allegation to boot. Hey, he's part of the club at this point. The thing about George Santos, and he just said it's a witch hunt against him, and I love that. I love it for him because, honey, not everyone can do Donald. I know you think you can do Donald, but you can't do Donald. You just got here. You gotta earn Donald. You need decades of corruption, not just this mealy mouth GoFundMe, stole money from a homeless vet with a dog. No. You need big corrupt. You need bankrupt casinos corruption. Then you can earn witch hunt title. But until then, babe, we're gonna see.
Yep, that sounds right to me. And especially because as it concerns Trump, well, all those years of criming and hurting people really seemed to come to a head yesterday when he was found liable of sexual assault and defamation in that civil case against E. Jean Carroll and ordered to pay $5 million. And while we know that Fox News wasn't necessarily going to take the same framing with that verdict as most other outlets.
I will lick his wounds. His supporters might not be moved by this. The women who were expected, suburban women, to be the swing vote in this might be. We'll see what the lingering impact will be in terms of the elections.
Leo, what's your reaction?
Probably just the opposite, Martha. As a lawyer for 30 plus years, this woman went around on media, left-wing media, and said she was raped. With the lowest standard of evidence, preponderance of evidence, the jury said, no, that's not true. We do not believe you. That's a major concession, and she lost on her biggest claim, the rape charge. She lost with the preponderance of evidence, lowest standard.
Which is so interesting because rather than actually focus on the fact that he was found liable on the sexual abuse charge, they instead went ahead and pushed with the thought that she, E. Jean Carroll, was not able to obtain a liable verdict on the rape charge. The thing is, we all know that the reason for that is because she testified that she wasn't sure whether Donald Trump had inserted his member in her after putting his fingers in her, which actually just might say that his member wasn't anything necessarily larger than his fingers, if so the case. But we'll leave that there.
And we've all seen his hands, so.
Yes, for real. Exactly. So that actually speaks volumes. And it also speaks volumes that Fox News kept it going in terms of getting these hosts who are out here defending Trump.
I would submit to you, Martha, that Trump supporters are looking at this case as another witch hunt. The totality of all the civil criminal cases against Donald Trump, for one reason only. They don't want this man to run for president. They don't want him to run. And I would submit to you that all this does is enhance his chances of winning in 2024. Trump is going to appeal this case, Martha. And I'll tell you right now, it's going to be resolved. But if anyone honestly believes this is going to stop President Trump from running for office, you're wrong. If anyone honestly believes that President Trump is going to take a dip in the polls, you're wrong.
That is the interesting question of the hour that everybody seems to be focused on right now. And check out this headline from The Hill, because they're giving us their thoughts that the Senate Republicans are questioning Trump's 2024 viability after sexual abuse verdict. That's right, not everybody feels that, hey, the 2024 election is still in the bag for the GOP nomination for Trump. And if they at least ask Senator Mitt Romney, well, he'd let you know that there's no hope for 2024, nor should there be for Donald Trump.
I hope the jury of the American people reach the same conclusion about Donald Trump. He just is not suited to be president of the United States.
It's a wise man right there. And Republican senators like Bill Cassidy, the Republican out of Louisiana, who I do not care for But he did vote to indict Trump in the January 6th attack. Well, he also spoken out against Trump, and he showed some solidarity with E. Jean Carroll. Check this out. He said, of course it creates a concern. How could it not create a concern? If what that woman says has been found to be civilly liable, how could it do anything else but create concern? If she were your sister, what would you think? You feel for Miss Carroll. A woman should not be assaulted, period, end of story, period. Oh, that's really nice of Cassidy. It's like, yeah, you have to focus on E. Jean Carroll being a sister, being a mother, instead of just recognizing she's a person. Well, with that being said, a number of Senate Republicans have also either not commented, stayed away from it, or they've just kind of skirted around the issue, which I respect. Senator Josh Hawley, Republican out of Missouri, said that he still believes the ex-president will be the GOP presidential nominee, and added that Trump being found liable for sexual abuse will make the general election interesting. He said voters will have to weigh that against the continuing pileup of scandals from the Biden White House. That's a choice that the voters make. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't the nominee, Holly said. It's so interesting, as we know, for those who are watching Fox News today, they're trying to come out with some scandal of Biden's, which is clearly an attempt to maybe change discourse off of the Trump verdict. But it's also clear that so many of his colleagues are afraid of speaking ill against him, like Josh Hawley, because they recognize Trump is still powerful. They just don't know how 2024 is gonna go. Francesca, absolutely. What's your take?
No. I mean, this just confirms what we always knew about Trump, that he is a predator, that he is a creep, and everything that he said in private is absolutely how he behaved in public, clearly, and with people interpersonally. And I think it's sad that the jury did not convict him and find him guilty of rape. Again, this was not a criminal case, so there wouldn't have been the consequences that there normally should have been for something like rape. Sexual abuse, it's like, yeah, tomato. I mean, I think it is very funny if you watch his depositions, how he has zero remorse, not only for the Access Hollywood tapes where he admits that he grabs women by their genitals, but then what happened to E. Jean Carroll, whether or not it was him or whether or not he believes he did it, he has no sympathy. He completely obviously says she's not my type, i.e. like I wouldn't rape her. Fun. So look, if you're the Democrats, if you're Biden, you just replay those depositions over and over and over again. Guys, this was last October. This is not ancient history. He just doubled, tripled down on everything that he believes about women. So, it makes sense the Republicans are thinking, we might need an out here because absolutely you're gonna alienate women, and they already are by stripping away their reproductive rights and abortion rights. It's just funny because they're not gonna change course. They are the biggest P word of all. Like that's the reality of this. They're not gonna actually change it up because they're afraid of him. They have to lift up a predator.
Yeah, and it's just incredibly wild that they feel that that's where their strong suit lies, with someone who is under federal investigation, has now been found liable and verdict for sexual abuse, and also is facing charges right now in Manhattan court. Like, get out of here. It's like, this is your winning piece. Are you really bringing your best, GOP? It really shows you that they're not particularly smart. But I'd love to skip ahead to the last graphic in this section, because I think it's incredibly important with yesterday's verdict to bear in mind that there were jurors out there who were willing to take the risk and to sit on this jury. And we know how incredibly dangerous it was for them, because Trump loves to call upon his minions to threaten people. We saw what he did at the US Capitol and the language that he uses to incite this violence. It's very, very scary. And these individuals who sat there in the jury box, they recognized that and they still took the risk. So after the judge advised the jurors yesterday not to identify themselves after the verdict, well, CNN analyst Juliette Kayyem added this. This is some post-verdict jury instruction. You could get killed or injured, certainly harassed, definitely trolled. So don't identify yourself and don't identify anybody else. Trump's strongest legacy will always be violence as an extension of our democratic processes. Oof. Absolutely. This man will do everything in his power to get in the way of any kind of checks, balances, process. Democracy has never been his friend. It's been about power. And that's exactly what he wants to orchestrate here, exercises of power.
Absolutely, and I do think this is a win ultimately, right? It's minimally being held accountable. I mean, hats off to E. Jean Carroll for the amount of courage it took to come forward and recount the most traumatic thing that has happened to her. And look, $5 million, it's something, right? Giuliani could use that money. I'm sure all of his other lawyers who aren't going to get paid, getting paid in IOUs written on Diet Coke cans, could use that money.
Yeah, for real. It'll be interesting. You know what? No one interviewed Giuliani yesterday. That's interesting.
So sad.
Yeah, I hope he's still in the country. And same thing for George Santos. Surrender your passport, bro. Anyway, well, we are going to go on a short trip, just a few minutes, but then we're going to catch you your comments, and then we'll be back with more news. See you in a moment.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back to Unbossed. Adrienne Lawrence filling in for the great Nina Turner. And guess what? Well, Gummy Dragon has something going on, that's for sure. I need you to shop tyt.com, where there's some awesome progressive merchandise that's including this design featuring Gumby Dragon. Yes, join the ranks of the coolest dragons fighting injustice and corruption. Check it out at shoptyt.com. Also, gotta be real, tonight is that CNN town hall featuring Donald Trump. And as much as we're not big on having fascists on the forefront of any kind of media outlet, well, CNN decided to give him an opportunity. And anyway, it's your opportunity to listen to our commentary. That's right, Cenk Uygur is gonna go live on the Young Turks YouTube channel with his immediate reaction after the town hall. And you can find that at youtube.com/theyoungturks. Also, for podcasts, Unbossed is out there. Why aren't you a part of it? That's right, just in case you missed the show, or maybe you just wanna hear us spout all sorts of wisdom. Well, go ahead, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast, sign up and give us those 5 stars because you know we deserve them. And who deserves love? Well, some TYT members at tyt.com. Vicky says, this is fun. Adrienne and Francesca, Rose Santos, that's right. Eclectic Miscellanea says, it's Adrienne and Francesca. Adrienne didn't need to say her name in case someone didn't already know her name. It's in the background of the cover of her book. Insert plug for book here. Thank you, much love. Twitch, Rye the Therapy Dragon says, Franny on TYT at 4 p.m. on Wednesday? What is this, the Twitchuation Room revival?
I know, right? RIP, RIP.
On YouTube, Henry Downes says, Adrienne and Francesca, whoop whoop, hey ladies, hey, what's up? Neil Mix says, but how do we know you're not George Santos? I think we've just been called out, Francesca.
I mean, guilty as, yeah, look, I wish, honestly, Adrienne, I wish I had the audacity and the gall to lie as much as George Santos.
Absolutely.
Truly, like the most I'm like, oh man, I'm not proficient in Microsoft Excel. Should I put that on my resume? Like that's what I do, you know?
Yes, and he's out here. I speak fluent French, German, and Chinese. And oh my God, this man is a piece of work. But there are also some pieces of work going on in the current administration, yes, because with Title 42 coming to an end tomorrow, well, the Biden folks, they've announced a new rule that will all but ban migrants at the border. Here's some details about this rule that goes into effect tomorrow. President Joe Biden's administration on Thursday will begin denying asylum to migrants who show up at the US-Mexico border without first applying online or seeking protection in a country they passed through, according to a new rule released Wednesday. It's part of new measures meant to crack down on illegal border crossings while creating new legal pathways, including a plan to open 100 regional migration hubs across the Western Hemisphere, administration officials said. Now, this severe measure is still a lot less strict than the one that was released in 2019, the rules that the Trump administration tried to push through, but for federal appeals court saying not so fast and striking them down. But here, the Biden administration really is painting this rule that's coming out as a way of reducing the number of migrants that are showing up at the border while still allowing a chance for asylum to be achieved. Because right now it's about to be an unprecedented surge in migration. Check this out for the AP. Economic and political instability around the world is fueling the highest levels of migration since World War II, including in the Western Hemisphere, the rule said. With known crossings from Mexico reaching an all-time high last year due to an unprecedented exodus of migrants at different times from countries such as Brazil, Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, Haiti, Nicaragua, Peru, and Venezuela. I wonder if there are any other countries on that list that the US has not ardently worked to destabilize. Well, a lot of groups who help migrants, they have called it life-threatening and misguided. They think that these penalties are extremely harsh, and that's something that Francesca and I will talk about. But first, these are the penalties involved. Once the change happens, migrants caught crossing illegally will not be allowed to return for 5 years, and they can face criminal prosecution if they do. The administration said in the new rule that as many as 11,000 migrants per day could try to cross the border after Title 42 lifts, absent any changes. The Democratic administration will return migrants from Haiti, Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua to Mexico if they do not apply online, have a sponsor, and pass a background check. It will admit 30,000 per month from those nations to the US with legal papers to work for 2 years. Mexico will continue to take back the same number who cross illegally. Now, this definitely seems pretty callous, and there are limited exceptions. The rule does not include room for exceptions for anyone with an acute medical emergency or facing imminent and extreme threat to life or safety, such as an imminent threat of rape, kidnapping, torture, or murder. It does not apply to children traveling alone, however, but will apply to families. Wow, many people are fleeing persecution out there, and qualifying for asylum is so rare. This new rule really seems kind of almost like a death sentence to many people who are coming to the United States because they need help. Am I reading this wrong, Francesca?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And actually it's not that different from, as you spoke of, Trump's new rules that he tried to impose that everyone also freaked out about legitimately. I mean, here's the deal. Our entire immigration system is completely broken. And so it is absolutely unfair to put this on migrants themselves. The fact that we take so long to process immigrants who do even apply legally, right? The fact that the immigration courts are insanely understaffed. There's the backlog is tremendous, and we don't actually have a smooth work visa program so people can safely enter or exit. So there's a lot of different reasons people come to the United States. They can be economic, but they can also be, for fear of their lives. And when you seek asylum, it is because you are afraid for your life. because, the situation in Haiti, I don't know, the president was murdered, right? There are gangs roaming the street. Your entire family was threatened, and your country cannot and can no longer keep you safe. Again, thanks to a lot of legacies of US involvement as well. So the solution is big, but this stopgap measure will lead to more death. The stopgap measure I wish we had was let's allow people to seek asylum again after Title 42, goes away. Let's just have them, and then we will deal. We will go case by case, but in the meantime, they will be out of harm's way. But of course, because that politically would supposedly look bad, because we face a Republican Party that relishes in cruelty. The Biden administration is too afraid to do exactly that, because it's too afraid to be seen as being kind to migrants.
God forbid, we look to take care of humans. But then again, since our nation is kind of built on exploiting humans by way of indentured servitude and slavery, it kind of makes me think that this is almost par for the course. The thought that, hey, I know you really need help, and I know that we've maybe created circumstances in which the nation that you are living in can no longer protect you or take care of you, but don't come to our door. And also the way that this is structured in terms of not having any exceptions for people who are dying or who are facing imminent threat in any way, but there will be exception for someone traveling as a child, that is gonna result in individuals leaving their children. Because they know. It
already has, yeah.
Oh, exactly, and it's gonna be even worse. We are gonna have so many children, and since we know how much child sex trafficking goes on here, particularly in the United States, all it's gonna do is fuel that industry. Is the Biden administration ready for that?
I mean, that's truly first of all, I mean, that's truly what, the right claims to care about children, right? But as long as you're documented. If you're not documented, and you're non-white, then you can kind of I don't care what happens to you. You can be trafficked. You can also end up working in a factory at age 12. You know what I mean? In Arkansas. Thank you, Governor Huckabee Sanders. I want to correct something. I don't know if I think this may be different, where they will not be accepting children, minors anymore. So that's interesting to note, that they will only be accepting families. Which may reduce the amount of people who do send minors across the border, hoping that they will find a better life or be united with somebody who lives in this country. So anyway, that's something. It's such a big story, Adrienne. There's a lot more to talk about.
For real, because I thought that the treaties and humanities rule require us to accept children. Because when I was over in Israel, that's why they accept Palestinian children who come over, who are being persecuted because they're queer or there's something different about them. That Israel accepts them with open arms and takes care of them, and also will find new homes for them, whether it's in Canada or somewhere safe for them. That's an international rule you have to abide by.
Right.
But we'll see.
Unfortunately, the United States and Israel both violate international law on the regs. So
there are some things to work out for sure.
Yeah.
And that definitely is the case there in the Sunshine State, because Florida, once again, facing some consequences for its actions. This time, it's because the House passed this massively cruel and xenophobic and racist anti-immigration bill. Yesterday, the Florida House approved SB 1718, and of course, it sailed through along party lines, in part, well, actually, because of the GOP supermajority that is going on in Florida's legislature. Now, it imposes these tough penalties and restrictions. SB 1718 includes strengthens employment requirements, bans local governments from contributing money to organizations creating identification cards for undocumented immigrants, bars driver's license issued to non-citizens in other states from use in Florida, repeals a 2014 law that allowed undocumented immigrants to be admitted to practice law in Florida. And also, the bill would also authorize $12 million for the program enabling DeSantis's political stunts, in which he flies migrants to other states while portraying them as burdens to society, and it would punish businesses and hire undocumented people. Now, once this is signed into law by Governor DeSantis, it's going to take effect July 1. But even though the bills has not taken effect or been signed in, it's definitely been felt without a doubt. Check out this headline from CBS Miami. Yeah, it says people aren't showing up to work. South Florida workers already feeling the heat of immigration bill. And there's been accounts on social media that have been documenting the response to SB 1718. For example, construction workers say that many of their employees, they've been MIA for fear of deportation. Watch this.
There's like less than 20 people working today. Usually there's about 100. And it's really interesting. I'm wondering how they're gonna get this project done without undocumented workers.
Yes, a lot of undocumented workers out there, they contribute to the construction industry significantly. And there's so many empty work sites that just abound right now. And people are blaming SB 1718, which has a lot of businesses scared because they could face $10,000 in fines or also having their business license revoked. And it's not just one work site, but multiple. As you can see from this video here, that what we know is that there are individuals who are not necessarily showing up to do work. And it's a lot in part because, hey, 1718 is on the table. And as far as construction goes, according to the Center for American Progress, more than 2.8 million undocumented workers work in construction. And that composes about 24% of the industry. So you, Florida, and your hateful approach is knocking out about a quarter of that industry. And Florida's hateful approach to immigration, it's been despised so much that even the president in Mexico piped up. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador condemned Bill 1718. He said this: "Now I found out that the Florida governor, imagine Florida, which is full of migrants, is taking repressive and inhumane measures against migrants in Florida because he wants to be a candidate. Can't he not make another proposal to convince people?" Exactly. The president of Mexico is like, you fool, you are so ignorant. You rely on migrants. It sustains your economy just like it does the United States. Migrants are welcome and they are very much a part of our society. They deserve respect, they deserve opportunity. And you have so many individuals out here working very hard, yet you have idiots like DeSantis who wants to advance white supremacy so much to the point that he's willing to bankrupt the state and put it in absolute disarray to advance his neo-Nazi narratives. I'll just say it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a branding exercise and he's shooting himself in the foot while he thinks he's doing for like what? For 20 psychos on Facebook, you know what I'm saying? Like ultimately everyone knows the American economy runs on undocumented labor, right? And these are human beings. There are 10 million of them who live in this country, who work in all kinds of sectors, right? And agriculture and construction are huge American sectors in that state, as well as across this country. And here's the real thing, right? You really have to zoom out. Not only do we have a broken a broken immigration system, and those folks need a pathway to citizenship so they stop being persecuted, but we also need an overhaul of the labor movement, right? Look, construction and the economy rests. There is a documentary, A Day Without a Mexican. Things don't get done in this country. The economy rests on this labor. And what happens when they're gone? Well, you've got to raise the wages if you want people who otherwise weren't doing this job to do that same job. So you're gonna do that? I thought you wanted to funnel money upwards to the CEOs, to the construction company owners. Like, what happens to that? They're probably gonna get in your ear and be pretty upset about this. So they're like, look, talk the talk, but don't walk the walk, DeSantis. So we will see, and it's all just coming to a head, Adrienne. Everything's coming to a head, and I love that Ron DeSantis is finding out the hard way. That doing things for show, it's like you don't go full, you don't fully commit to the bit, You say you're gonna do it, but you don't actually do it.
And I'm glad you didn't say it. Yes, very much so. You don't commit all the way, but DeSantis has continued to commit even to his union busting efforts and anti-union push. Yeah, that's right. Because Governor DeSantis now has passed this bill and signed it in that really shows you how he feels about teachers and their abilities to come together. Yeah, so teachers and other government employees will have to write monthly checks if they want to stay in their union after Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill Tuesday banning automatic dues deductions from public employees' paychecks. The anti-union bill also gives employees the right to immediately quit a union for no reason and requires unions to rectify or recertify if the number of dues-paying members drops below 60% of those eligible to join. Yeah, putting in that extra step of making you write a check, because so many of us carry checks nowadays. The purpose is to keep people from joining unions. And while DeSantis is claiming essentially that the bills gives teachers more freedom, well, Florida's Education Association saw right through all the nonsense, claiming that the actions were punishment for opposing his policies. The teacher union president stated this: "The governor may not let his desire to crush perceived opponents get the best of him. This new law grossly oversteps in trying to silence teachers, staffs, professors, and most other public employees. We will not go quietly. Our students and our professions are simply too important." You damn right. Teachers, the education system is extremely important, and they are fighting a hell of a battle there in Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis and his minion members of legislature, who are putting up all of these hurdles that really prevent the teachers there in Florida from actually being able to do their jobs. And also, it really is creating a structure in which people can't learn, they can't grow and become informed citizens. But then again, that's what the GOP wants. Keeping an ignorant populace is a way to keep control.
School sucks already. I just can't imagine being in school in Florida and being like, okay, cool. So we have a governor who is hell-bent on making the schools less safe by allowing more guns in the hands of psychos. We've already had our share of mass shootings in schools. And there are no more books anymore because everything is woke. And now my teachers' unions are being impacted as if they weren't facing already an uphill battle. Like, I hate it here. I want to be in school for what? Like, it is, and honestly, that's the point, right? It is to destabilize education. It is to destabilize teachers. It is to actually funnel kids out of school and into the workforce. Hey, go work the jobs that nobody wants, that all the migrant workers aren't working anymore. Like truly, and honestly, what that does is doesn't create a robust society, an educated society. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, it's one more hit. It's one more hit against teachers here, and I'm actually kind of jealous, Adrienne, that their governor is so cavalier about his agenda, whereas Governor Newsom here in California, supposedly a blue state, doesn't really have what it takes to be like, I want Gavin Newsom to be like, you know what? I'm gonna do the anti-DeSantis and universal health care, like for all Californians. Let's do this, Newsom. Look at what DeSantis is doing. Do the opposite.
That sounds like an utter dream. But yeah, we're just gonna have to sit here with the world's 4th largest economy and hope for the best. In the meantime, we are gonna take a break, but we are gonna come back with your comments. See you soon.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? The white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back, Adrienne Lawrence filling in for the great Nina Turner. And as I promised, let's get to your comments. Yes, that's right, for 2 IT members. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, says, hell, I thought that our Constitution said that migrants must be admitted or given a court date, but then I'm not a Supreme Court justice, so what could I know? Good question. Mo Fiore says George DeSantis needs to be careful with the Jewish comments. They might hit him with their space lasers. Yeah, you know how these righties like to come up with these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Twitch says, TOS Snitch says, Trump and GOP routinely demonize Mexican Hispanics as lazy. Since the 60s, Mexicans have been the top cement, stone, tile workers in USA. I don't doubt it. And also JFMEHL81 says the GOP never wanted to fix immigration. They wanted undocumented laborers. They can underpay and hold deportation over their heads. Yes, yes, and yes. They don't want people who actually need asylum, who actually need refuge. No, they don't. They want people they can exploit.
And Democrats do. Democrats go along with it. They say they don't, but they do.
And it honestly, it really does piss me off how individuals will be the backbone of your society. They will labor for you. They are being exploited with these low wages, but they need help and you just turn your back on them. It's like, get out of here with, I just think it's disgusting. Anyway, so on YouTube, well, Simple Ways says Bernie just got done in a hearing with big pharma CEOs. Bernie ended saying, go home and ask yourself, people are dying due to your greed. Those CEOs knew they were caught with facts. Heart Bernie, absolutely. Because what we're looking at is people wanting to continue to be greedy and to consume resources, but not actually want to do their jobs and maybe, I don't know, help or advance we the people. But let's go ahead and go to Arizona, where there is a lawmaker not only trying to advance we the people, but doing a really, I guess, quasi-illegal thing to do that. Yeah, check this out. Arizona State Representative Stephanie Hamilton being called out by the likes of all sorts of members of the GOP for what they call is an ill-advised prank. Here this is. That is Hamilton walking around hiding the Bibles. Yes, the Bibles that are located in Arizona's, their Capitol building there with all the lawmakers. She takes issue with the fact that there should be Bibles there. That's not okay. Yeah, she was doing this after a small gathering inside the Arizona House Members Lounge. And Stephanie Hamilton, she was caught on camera, as you could see there. And they figured out it was her. This is really interesting about Stephanie Hamilton, excuse me. She is a Presbyterian minister herself. She had been hiding Bibles from the members' lounge in odd places like inside a refrigerator. Stahl Hamilton has explained it as a playful commentary on the separation of church and state and a protest against the weaponization of religion in politics. Now, the GOP apparently did not appreciate her sense of humor. But before we get to that, I definitely have to ask you, Francesca, how do you like this prank?
Oh, I love it. I mean, look, I think, girl, just do whatever. Try, might as well try. I mean, those Bibles are dusty. No one's cracked them in a while. Flip it to the passage, the verse you like, and see, put it in the urinal, put it in the, like in front of someone's lunch in the break room. Like, I just think it's first of all, it's very Karen energy. I mean, so much time on your hands. But secondly, I just think it's funny. I think it's great.
I think it's absolutely wild. I do very much appreciate this call out about fascism, the fact that people are using, or they call it Christian fascism. People are using things in their ministry, in the Bible, to advocate for advancing laws, even though there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. So I can appreciate Stall Hamilton making this issue known by essentially engaging in this prank. But of course, the GOP wasn't a fan, this per NPR. The prank captured the attention of GOP leadership, who, after finding the missing Bibles, decided to install hidden cameras to catch the culprit. Since being caught, not all of Stall Hamilton's colleagues are laughing. 3 even filed formal ethics complaints against her. We and other members of the Arizona House who cherish our faith and hold the Bible in reverence do not see Representative Stall Hamilton's disrespect of Scripture as playful in any regard. Representatives Justin Heap, David Marshall, and Lupe Diaz wrote in their complaint against Stall Hamilton last week. In it, the 3 first-term Republican representatives accuse her of disorderly conduct under House rules, theft, and creating a hostile work environment under state and federal laws protecting workers from religious discrimination. Even the failed gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake had to chime in on what she felt was so incredibly offensive. She hit Twitter with this. This is AZ House Dems member Stall Hamilton stealing Bibles from the House members only lounge at the Arizona State Capitol. This isn't normal behavior. But Democrats are so used to getting away with everything that they feel emboldened to do bizarre things like this. And the Arizona Freedom Caucus, yeah, they put out this tweet, which is kind of funny. Marked safe from Democrat Bible thief Stephanie Stall Hamilton, with a picture there of the 10 Commandments. I'm sure it's very safe somewhere up in a Texas schoolroom.
I mean,
anyway,
what is the point? They all they want is the Bible everywhere. So she put it everywhere. She gave it to them. What's not to love? They want "In God We Trust" in everything, right? It's just like, it's so benign, it's so stupid. It's the equivalent of like, writing in chalk outside of Brett Kavanaugh's home and everyone's freaking out like, oh my God, his life was threatened. No, it's not. That's your party that stokes political violence and, to a lot of effect.
And also, why is
the
there a
rest
bunch
of
of
us.
Bibles there in the House lounge? Like, again, if you have a Bible in your own chambers, that's one thing. But for the lounge to have a bunch of Bibles everywhere when there is a separation of church and state, I give her full props for hiding those Bibles because they completely should not be there. Anyway, the complaint could be nothing. It also could end up in a House vote for punishment. That's censure, at most expulsion, hopefully none of that. But the Arizona Democrats, they're saying that this entire situation is political retribution. House Minority Leader Andres Cano told Arizona PBS that he fears the complaint is payback against Stall Hamilton. She filed an ethics complaint in March that led to the expulsion of a Republican representative for that lawmaker's role in spreading a baseless election conspiracy about other elected lawmakers. Now, Representative Hamilton has since come out and apologized, I'm sure hoping that the complaints would stop and that the, I'm sure, Republican-dominated legislature won't maybe kick her out. And this is what she said.
Members, I stand here today wanting to acknowledge the offense I committed by my actions of hiding Bibles in the members' lounge. The intent was never to be destructive, to never desecrate, or to offend. I acknowledge that a conversation about the separation of church and state should have began with a conversation. I hold Scripture very dear to my heart. It is what guides me. It is what shapes and informs the decisions I make. I have the utmost respect for people of all faiths and for those who choose not to have a faith. And because of that respect, I recognize that my actions could have been seen as something less than playful and offensive. And for those of you who I have deeply offended, I apologize. That was never the intent.
Oh, that's so nice of her. The woman is a Presbyterian ordained minister. Like, she's all about this God stuff. She's just not all about God in the workplace, which is supposed to be where you make laws, where you have a state that is supposed to separate church and state. I don't understand why it's such a big deal, but I also see, or could see, how the Republicans want to strike back at her.
Yeah, no, ridiculous. I can withhold commentary if you want to do one more story, or I can keep going.
Oh, no, this is our last story.
No, look, I think that it's so silly to me that they got offended, right? I was just trying to figure out, like, okay, what exactly is she doing? Because it seems like she was just moving stuff around, right? Like she was just sort of like playing find the Bible. And no one was looking for their Bible because they claim to support, the teachings of Jesus, but they don't actually read the teachings of Jesus. I mean, maybe they're more Old Testament people. So I think it's, again, Adrienne, we live in a moment where Republicans are so triggered. Yes, triggered, the word that they think the left is. They're so triggered by the messenger and not the message. They're triggered by the fact that there were Bibles in different places versus what is actually happening, which is, yes, the coalescing of religion and government to the point where we can't distinguish a difference anymore. And truly religious laws. I mean, I know we shouldn't be saying things like Ya Al-Qaeda, or like, but it is for a party that loves to demonize Islam and talk about, Sharia law all the time. Look at how religiously guided the laws that they are pushing, or supposedly religiously guided the laws they're pushing are.
Absolutely. Again, y'all need to look it up. It's called Christian fascism. And that's exactly what they are doing by elevating these tenets that are spiritual Christian tenets, and also using that to weaponize and advance law. That is completely and totally disgusting, and it's not okay, especially when you have so many Americans out here criticizing other countries for being a religious-based country, when we very much are. My God, you look at our dollar bill and it's "In God We Trust" written across it. It's absolutely junk, but I know what's not junk is Francesca Fiorentini. You want to quickly tell everybody where they can find more of you?
Yeah, everybody follow me at Franny Fio on all the things, and you can find me at the Bituation Room podcast on the TYT network. You can also find it on YouTube and Twitch/Franny Fio every Tuesday and Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Fantastic. You can catch me on Rebel HQ, and it has been great being your host this week. Thanks so much for your time. Love you long. See you later.
Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's going on, Ma? Welcome to the watch list, you guys. It's a Wednesday edition on the show. How you guys doing? Hope you've enjoyed your day so far. As we flow straight through, we've got lots happening today. So since you guys are here with me, again, my punctual people, please like, subscribe. Also, go ahead and share that damn stream, because coming up after this, we're dropping some of these videos also on the watch list page over on YouTube and Facebook. You guys can check them out as well. Go ahead, let it be known. Even your folks, since we've moved time slots that can no longer catch us in the morning, they might as well know. To sweeten the deal, I mean, you're giving me all this. How about I give you this? Adrienne Lawrence joins me on the program today. She's the host of Overruled on Rebel HQ, and apparently the host of everything, you guys.
Apparently.
What's going on, Adrienne? How you feeling?
I'm feeling like pretty good. The comeuppance extravaganza that the last 48 hours has been is just, it's really fueled my joy.
I was on TDR this morning talking with John about it, and he said it was one of the best news days overall that he's seen in a very long time. And maybe I'm just stuck in the pessimism pool, but I was like, about what, bro? What one thing? Santos, okay, fine, he's gonna get some kind of punishment. But, the come up it's coming for one Donald Trump as well is, I guess, a bit of a thing, which actually is a part of what we're even gonna start with, because the defenses have to begin, the coming out to the public has to begin, so they can shield him from a bit of that responsibility, even if nothing else, for people to realize that a jury did determine that he is liable for that sexual assault. Not for the rape part, just the sexual assault part. So let's go ahead and jump straight into this first one. One of his many attorneys that probably will be quitting by next week, she went on TV and they were all talking about this.
My final question to you is, I mentioned that there are 15 women altogether who have alleged that Trump sexually harassed or assaulted them. Are you concerned that more
Are we talking
of
about
this,
2016? Hold on.
Are you concerned
I have
that
not gotten
all
a
told,
complaint from 15 women?
All told, that not that you've gotten complaints that have become public. Are you concerned that this
Since
case
20,
that we've
are you
seen
talking
today,
about 2016? Is that
are
the
you
desperation
concerned-
that we're at right now?
Are you concerned that the case that we saw today, that it is maybe just the beginning, that other criminal action could be in the future?
No, I think you're concerned that he is going to win, which is why you're bringing up 2016 things, because you have nothing to bring up. That's what I think you're concerned. And you should be concerned. He's leading in the polls.
Okay.
Well, apparently that's all that Alina Abba cares about, one of Trump's attorneys. Now that that jury has found him liable for that sexual assault with E. Jean Carroll. It's not looking too good. And I think it's a pretty straightforward question. How about these other women that have alleged similar things from one former president? Alina wasn't very jazzed about answering that question. So much so she continued interrupting and trying to disrupt this interview. I have a little bit of advice for Alina. Say, we're not interested in coming on. Instead, she looked like this. Watch more.
Okay. I'm a journalist. I am not concerned about anything. I'm asking you, as one of his attorneys, about things that are out there. And in addition to what you
Since
are here to talk.
2016, is that what we're talking about? Great.
I'm talking
are you
about
talking about
things
20? Give me a year. These 15 women. Are we talking about 2016 when he was running and almost won and then did win?
It is not relevant what you're talking about.
It is
about
relevant.
The dates. No,
you
it's
just
not.
asked me about 15 women. I don't have 15 women that have come forth with a claim.
Okay.
Where are they? I don't have them.
I didn't say that they came. I didn't say that they came forward with a claim. I said that they have made public statements. I said they have made public statements, and my question was, are you concerned about this?
You have nothing for 2024.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I very much appreciate it, and I hope to talk soon because there's a lot more to discuss as you go on with your appeal.
I'm sure there will when he wins.
And
Thank you.
Not sure if she realizes this, but this approach, this attitude, this anger doesn't really make him look all that good, or honestly her either. So the question kept going, what about this 2016, 2016? Is it 2016, 2016, 2016? But we do know that they'll bring up, at a moment's notice, Bill Clinton, who back in the 90s had that scandal going on, but it wasn't even like this to the degree of this type of thing. But it's all about 2020 and 2024, and make sure we talk only about that because that doesn't affect anyone else at all. So again, since we're talking about years past, even the statute of limitations question that was then also asked of Alina since she's bringing up years and how far things are back, let's see if she has any explanations for that aspect. Let's watch.
Is this the kind of law that you think should be changed, separate from this case, for women to have more time to process things that happen to them, assaults?
No, because it's indefensible. There are things called justice, and people have the right to go to courts and go to prisons and go to police officers and say, I was raped, I was assaulted. That is your right, and you should take that right if you were assaulted, if you were raped. But what you are not allowed to do is say, I don't have a year, I don't have a date, I'm not sure if it happened, I'm not sure when it happened. And guess what? I was in Bergdorf Goodman, but he lived across the street and nobody saw it. She didn't like him as a candidate. And now she's gonna say it again when in 2024 he's the leading candidate. You're not allowed to do that. That is un-American. So no, this isn't about rape victims, this is about politics. And you know what? Shame on anybody. Because the rape victims, it's a sad thing.
The anger is just flowing, and she kind of can't find a way to answer the question, Adrienne. So, she's an attorney. She's upset about the results of this, and they're talking about the appeals that they're gonna go with. But then as we try to toss in how we care about women, but then we actually don't, and then if someone comes with an accusation, it's just purely political, and he's up in the polls, it kind of seems like she's peeling away at this fake cover of how much they actually care about women and their rights and how they were assaulted. I guess specifically only when it comes for her president.
You know what? I just really feel like that Dana Bash deserves an award for that interview because it was unhinged the whole entire time, from the attorney starting with the head cock to her being so unrationally combative. It almost made me wonder if she was trying to cause a scene and a chaos so people would talk more about that interview as opposed to the Trump verdict. And the thing is that no, we are not going to allow you and your little highlights in your hair distract us from the fact that the former president has been convicted of sexual abuse. The fact is we have a conviction against him, or excuse me, you have a finding liability, a verdict against him that tells you that the people know who he is. And the fact is that the GOP doesn't want to acknowledge fully who this man is, at least publicly, but we know, we the people know. And New Yorkers know, and people around the country know. So whether the GOP continues to move forward with him as a front runner of their party, it really seems to be an exercise in a lack of intelligence, much like his attorney did during that interview.
Well, that is the plan, but then also since she keeps going with the political route and saying these women are coming forward and who's accusing this and they're doing that, there's plenty of women, as we've heard many times and we've talked about, many women across the country who allege assault like this, and then they go and talk to the police. As she said, everyone has the right to talk to police and see police and report all these crimes and things that has happened to them. What happens though, Alina, after this happens? How about we look into one of these specific issues of going to the authorities and what those authorities did. Down in Florida, this is new news. Florida detective has been arrested because he was accused of falsifying sex crimes cases. He was doing this for 21 years. He's a detective and he's with South Florida Sheriff's Agency. And he was accused of falsifying this information and closing out sex crimes cases without a thorough investigation. So as he's done this over and over again, and when people go to authorities to report some of these things, the authorities have to give a damn. They have to take in the information. They have to maybe assess these rape kits many times, which are untested, unfounded, thrown in the garbage, tossed to the side because our authorities tend to not care. Now, then it leads to then people going, well, look at these false accusations people keep coming up with. Women are just throwing this around just because it's political. You keep talking about how things are political because you're in the political realm. What's actually happening is I looked it up even further, Adrienne. There's 6 figures worth of untested rape kits in our country, backlogged, tossed to the side, unfunded. Who funds these things? Politicians who put money and allocate money in different places to go to things like protecting our society. So when they don't, is it political then too?
Yeah, you have to wonder who is actually focusing on the politics as opposed to the victim. Because when people come forward and say that they're sexually assaulted, that is an act of absolute and total courage, because you know that the system is structured such that you cannot win, that you have investigators who do not investigate. You have individuals who take rape kits that all of a sudden get thrown out. The system has always been stacked against individuals who are victims of sexual violence. And as a result of that, it has deterred individuals from coming forward, and it has enabled people who are sexual predators like Donald Trump to persist in their predation. And for that attorney to be there in the interview with Dana Bash, weaponizing the deficiencies in our system and saying because these women are finally coming forward and having the courage to speak out about what had happened to them, that they're making a political attack on the president as opposed to speaking their truth, which was silenced for years because of the systemic failures that are in place to continue to silence these victims. It's like, get out of here. That's utterly disgusting. But I'm sure that is a refrain we will continue to hear from so many people out there pushing and vying for Donald Trump.
It's all we've heard so far. And if you think they don't know the process and how it works and how, again, Donald Trump playing the role like any of these guys that are accused of things like this and go, she's not my type. That's part of this process too. So it's also one of the reasons why he lost this case, as he didn't take it seriously, didn't show up and just said, well, I'm just gonna say I don't know her and she's not my type. Sure thing, that's how these things work out. But I guess the privilege still flies around. Let's go ahead and jump to this next story, you guys. Since we've got talk of legal liability and criminal charges coming down, there's another one.
You guys, look, this is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself. We have an indictment. We have the information that the government wants to come after me on, and I'm going to comply. I've been complying throughout this entire process. I have no desire not to comply at this point. They've been gracious in there. Now I'm gonna have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt, because it makes no sense that in 4 months, 5 months, I'm indicted. You have Joe Biden's entire family receiving deposits from nine family members receiving money from foreign destinations into their bank accounts. It's been years of exposing. A lot of you here have reported on them, and yet no investigation is launched into them. I'm gonna fight. I'm getting back to that. I'm gonna fight my battle. I'm gonna deliver. I'm gonna fight the witch hunt. I'm gonna take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that.
George Santos is pulling a really bad impression of Donald Trump. It's a witch hunt, and I'm gonna fight back. You know, this is one of those few politicians where you'll see them outright say something against what it is they're being charged with, and you kind of get some boos even from the crowd there. So in case you guys didn't realize it, now he's facing 13 different charges, which we'll get into more details of, but there's a little bit more.
Yeah, we're just hearing, John, that George Santos is in custody and this indictment has been unsealed. I want to give you some quick details as we're going through the paperwork. He is charged on a 13-count indictment. According to those court documents, the charges include 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making materially false statements to the House of Representatives. Again, we're just getting this indictment. It has just been unsealed. We're hearing that Santos is inside the federal courthouse here behind me, and he has been arrested on these charges. And of course, we're learning that he will see a judge later today, very likely on these charges. But
this is getting pretty serious. Here's a few more of the details that they were pointing out there. Santos is only 34 years old, by the way. And they released him on a $500,000 bond after this whole arraignment. So he's turned himself to these authorities in Long Island. He's facing these fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. 20 years is what he could be seeing really fast, the theft of these public funds. Prosecutors said that Santos induced supporters to donate to a company under the false pretense, among many other things he tricked people into, that the money would be used to support his campaign. Instead, he used the money for personal expenses, designer clothes, and his credit card and car payments. Very nice, George. But still, he went through this entire process. They've caught up with him, and he's gonna defend himself against this witch hunt. There's absolutely no evidence, like there always is no evidence right before all the evidence is right in front of everyone's faces. He's trying to figure out why, after only 4 months, he's now been arrested and charged. I'm trying to figure out why it didn't happen after 1 month. because everyone already knew. A little bit more on this. Actually, before we go to more of that, Adrienne, I feel like you have a couple thoughts.
Well, I just really love the level of indignance that he showed in having to answer those questions or having to stand up there and speak about why he is there in front of the courthouse. It's really astonishing. I want his level of confidence to be able to really just go with these lies and be so bold about it. Like he says these things with his chest, and then for this to come down in terms of this 13-count indictment, for him to act completely shocked and act like I cannot believe this is happening. It's like, really? It's just like Oscar Academy Award winning performance.
Well, the reason he can't believe it is because usually these politicians circle the wagons for each other and make sure that they don't get caught up, which one Kevin McCarthy tried to do a few months ago. Let's watch.
Now, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who's been pretty quiet so far, finally commented about this today, telling Fox that Santos will continue to serve, at least for now.
The voters are the power. The voters made the decision, and he has a right to serve. If there is something that rises to the occasion that he did something wrong, then we'll deal with that at that time.
You guys remember that? That was back when his biography was being pulled apart and people realized how much he was lying about who he is, down to his name, bro. So Kevin McCarthy, I suppose he's a man of his word. If something comes down, if there's some kind of charges, we'll talk about it then. That day is today, Kevin. What do you have to say?
No. Yes.
Are you going to continue to stand by George Santos now that he's been indicted on federal charges?
I'm not going to avoid your question, but as you know, I've been at the White House. I haven't seen the indictment, but as you know, with George Santos, I did not put him on any committees. For those like Senator Menendez, who was indicted and went to trial, he was still able to vote, and others. I believe he's a chairman of a committee today. In America, we'll just follow the same pattern we always have, right? If a person is indicted, they're not on committees, they have the right to vote, but they have to go to trial. If, just like we had a member of Fortenberry, he had the same ability, I removed him from committees, but he was found guilty, and I told him he needed to resign. That is my policies and principles on this, and I'd follow the same.
What he's saying is, I'm not going to do anything about it because, again, this is a member of my party. I didn't do anything. Hey, guys, if you guys are trying to come for me on this is my political career I'm trying to protect here. Forget that guy. Do what you're going to do, but don't let this anyway bleed towards me. So one circle of the wagons is kind of not really fully there. Still trying to just protect his own ass. How about Steve Scalise? Because he also put himself in front of a podium and a microphone, which in these cases, I always say, ask the entire party how they feel about these folks when these things break. Well, someone's asking, but he wanted to talk about, ironically, a bill that would stop some fraud. Let's listen to what he had to say.
And then also, given all those indictments of Mr. Santos, a question for you and Chairwoman Stefanik is, should he resign?
So first of all, in regard to George Santos, he was already removed from all of his committees. There is a legal process. The charges just came out. We just saw some of them this morning. And so in America, there's a presumption of innocence, but they're serious charges. He's going to have to go through the legal process. But we're going to continue to work to root out fraud. And there's lots of it. And we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud in many.
The question was whether or not you feel like you putting forward this, by the way, the bill is HR 1163, Protecting Taxpayers and Victims of Unemployment Fraud Act. That's the thing that he went up there to talk about, Steve Scalise. And he was asked, because of your fraudulent members of Congress on your side of the party, do you think that kind of pokes holes in your moral approach that you think you have with this? And apparently it has nothing to do with him, except this one small detail, Adrienne. I love this. One of the co-sponsors of this bill is one guy, let me see if I can pronounce his name right. George Santos.